Hi guys, welcome back to my channel. Before we go any further, please like, please share, please subscribe. Thank you for all those who've liked so far. Thank you for all those who are sharing, and thank you for all those who have subscribed. I'm back again today with a little chit chat, the little story time. I'm just gonna share more on what happened when I finally moved to the town where I was going to work and how it was starting work. So I work in a county called County Tipperary, and I work at the Tipperary University Hospital where I'm a pediatric nurse. And you know, when you come to an advanced country and you're coming from our type of country, there's a lot of changes, be it equipment in the workplace, be it culture, be it the environment. Like there's a bit of a culture shock there. And when I moved from Dublin, it was after the RCSI exam. Like the morning we got the results, the afternoon we were picked up by the driver and were brought to Tipperary, and we had no idea where we were going. Honestly guys, even up to today, people at work still ask me, why did you choose Clonmel, why did you choose Tipperary University Hospital? Because it's such a small town, guys. It's like sort of the rural side of places. It's where people settle down when they like when they're old and are retired. It's not a place where young energetic people would want to go. So it's always a question in the workplace, why did you choose? But little do they know that when we're coming, we're not concerned about all that stuff, and we don't even know where we're going. And when the agent just says, I've got you a job, you're just happy you've got the job. You're not really worried where I'm going, or is it a big town or whatever. So like I'd advise you all, just know where you're going. Like just find out about the place, just ask the agent more about the area so that you know like what exactly to expect. But I don't really think it's a deal breaker in terms of, let's say you've got a job and you hear it's in a rural area or it's in a small town, or it's, guys, everywhere this side is advanced compared to where we're coming from. So you're not gonna lack anything. The shops are still bigger, the things are still affordable. That if anything, actually being in the outskirts or being in smaller towns is actually cheaper in terms of rentals, in terms of a lot of things. So it's actually something to consider. And then yeah, so I arrived here in the afternoon at around 4, and it was raining. And I, when you're just looking around and you don't even know like where you are, and like you're just anticipating the future, and the following day we had to be at work. So what had happened was, when I was still in Dublin, I was staying at Shannon Square. I think the Shannon Hall and Shannon Square. Shannon Hall was full, so we had to stay in Shannon Square for the few days before we did the RCSI exams. So there was no linen, it was just the bed. So I bought my duvet cover, I bought my bedding. And I remember my sister telling me, you know what, just buy it, because when you move to where you're going, like you need your own bedding and all. So at that time it didn't even click. I didn't even realize that when I get to where I'll be staying, I'll have to have my own bedding and stuff like that. But then the lucky thing was, because I had a bit of time to prepare before we were picked up, I got a few stuff like sheets, duvet cover, like basics, and then even a few groceries. And let me tell you guys, when we got there, the driver just dropped us off and we had to make our way. And bear in mind, this is the first time you're in this place, and it's like 5 p.m. and tomorrow you're starting work. You have no idea where to start looking for shops. And actually, the shop was like 5 minutes. A big supermarket was 5 minutes away. But I had no idea on that day that that's where the shop is. So at least get yourself a few bits to snack on or to eat for the first day or two, so that you give yourself time to settle in and then figure out where the shops are and all. And then yeah, the following day we started our orientation. The first thing when we got there, we re-signed our contracts, we signed all the paperwork, the documentation that they wanted us to do, we're given all the policies. And then we went to the occupational health department. They're going to check, like, their concern. Occupational health is about your safety as a worker, so they're concerned about your protection. They're going to check you if you've got immunity against hepatitis B, and just make sure if you haven't gotten your COVID vaccine, they will arrange for you to get it done. So when I came, I didn't bother getting the vaccine in Zim because that was a time when it was still starting out and people were not sure about the vaccines in Zim. So I just thought, okay, let me just go and get it there. And when I got here, they just registered me, and now I've even got the booster. So I'm not saying don't get the vaccine in Zim because things are a bit different now. If you can get it there, it's fine. And if they consider it this side, or if it's approved this side, then there's no hassles. And then so we did that, went to the occupational health. They just tested us and just checked all the documentation. So when you've gotten the job, there's documentation that they'll want from your doctor to show that you've got certain vaccines, that you're immunized against certain vaccines. That's where the baby card comes in. So things like that, really keep them, because like if you can keep them safe, keep them, because they come in handy when you're relocating. Even for your children, I think it would be like it would be good of you to make sure they're safe even when you leave them with your mother or someone who you can trust, because when they come this side, they have to bring that to show which vaccines they've had. So yeah, I sent my childhood vaccination card, and then I got my GP at the time back home to tell them that I'd gotten the Hep B vaccine and all. But actually, so sometimes when you, like, what happened to me is when they took my blood, they realized that I wasn't immune for hepatitis B. So they'll give you the vaccination again. So if you haven't gotten it ever in your life, don't worry about it. They'll still give it to you in the workplace because they want to make sure you're protected from hepatitis B and the MMR. That's something that's really important to them. So one thing about this side, occupational health is a priority. They are going to like find out, they're going to look for you, they're going to check your bloods, they're going to see if you're like immune against that, because they don't want you to be exposed, which is a good thing for us. And yeah, yeah, so that's what happened the first day. And then we had like trainings, and we still have trainings ongoing up to now. We haven't finished. You have trainings that you do, like when you start, the basics that you must know, the basics according to their policies or their standards aside, that they want you to know how to do certain things. You go through some of the things that you've done in the RCSI. You do maybe the medicines management again, you do, which is fine, guys. Like the more you do it, the more it sticks, you know. So you'll do those trainings though. Like the first 2 months, 3 months will be packed. Like every week you could have 2 trainings, and then the other day you're at work, the other week 3 trainings, you know, something like that. They'll keep you on it. And then there are also online trainings that you do. I remember before I came, we were told, I remember that my agent sent me a list of the trainings that were required by the hospital, that's by my employer. And at that time, guys, honestly, it wasn't a priority for me to do it. I was so focused on the RCSI. But if you do have time, you can start them, because sometimes, especially if you're someone who's a bit slow, you can start those online trainings, because some of them are not very long. Some are 30 minutes, some are 15 minutes, some are 20, and just get as much done as you can. And yeah, if you commit to it, you can do it. But if you should also find out when they want them, because sometimes they want them before you start work, and then sometimes they don't mind. You can kind of do them when you started work, and then maybe they'll give you a deadline. So we were fortunate enough that they didn't really ask for them when we started work, because we were doing all these trainings and we just done the RCSI, and you know, they gave us a bit of time. So as soon as I finished, like in between work and the trainings, I was doing the online ones at home, and I finished them. And there'll come a time when they'll be like, every training that you do online, you get a certificate. And that training can be valid for a year, or it can be valid for 2 years. It depends on which one it is. There are some that you have to do every year. So yeah, we sent those online certificates. And then guess what? Like, you know, the way back home we would have to do like courses or teachings to get like our continued education points. With us, because you've done those online already, you don't have to do anymore. So when you like December, your November, you can just renew your certificate, and you just pay, and then they send you the certificate, because you've already got so many trainings on your system. So that's a plus, like. And then yeah, so we started work, and what a shock, guys. 13 hours per shift. You know how back home would work from 7 to 4 or 1 to 8. This side, okay, where I work, shifts are a bit different with your workplace. we do 8 to 9s, which is like 13 hours. Fine, there's lunch and all, but if it's busy, sometimes you're not going to take the full hour, or it's going to be 40 minutes or less. And we've got 2 breaks in between, which are like 20 minutes, 30 minutes. It all depends also on the situation in the workplace and what, like, the flexibility. But then, guys, my feet were aching like the first, like, I think it took me a good month. And imagine, I was staying like 10 to 20 minutes from the hospital, and there was no transport like combis or what can I say, buses to go to work. You walk. So you'd walk in the morning, you're 15, 20 minutes to the workplace, and then you knock off 9 p.m., you walk back home. There is absolutely no transport. Like, it's such a small town that there is no, if you really need to, let's say it's raining, like when I really felt like, okay, today I'm not having it, I'm not walking, I would take a taxi, but that would be like €6. Then when you look at it, you ask yourself, is it worth it? Is it worth it taking a taxi to work and back, like €12 every day? It didn't make sense. So you'd really have to do it if either you're really late, or you just maybe like are not well, or it's really raining and you're not in the mood to walk in the rain. But one thing I can tell you is, when you get here, the first thing, get your waterproof jackets, get your big umbrella, because it's so windy when it rains that your small umbrellas are not going to cut it. So you need the big umbrella, the strong one. And yeah, so you need, and make sure most of the jackets that you buy are waterproof, so that you're warm and you're protected from the rain at the same time. So that was, yeah, that was it. Like, you're walking to work, to and from, like, you have to adjust. You need to, like, adapt and, like, forget about, back home I was driving to work and back, or I was catching a bus or an ET or a combi. You walk to work, you walk back, and you can imagine walking back in the rain after a 13-hour shift, guys. But anyway, you, at the end of the day, your eyes are on the prize, and you're like, so long as my money is coming in at the end of the month, it's grand. So the other thing is, okay, I haven't heard of anyone who gets paid. Okay, I work for the government, which is the HSC this side. I haven't heard of anyone who gets paid once a month. I don't know in the private sector, but for us, we get paid every 2 weeks. So it's flexible, like, you sort of kind of have money, so, like, all the time. So yeah, that's another thing. We get paid like every 2 weeks, every fortnight. And yeah, it's according to the hours that you've done. And there are also certain systems in place, like, where you've got, like, what they call off social hours. Like, after social hours, there's an extra for that. Then Sundays you get double, and then for night duty there's a night duty allowance. And then, yeah, I think that's what I can do. And bank holidays, you also get double. So sometimes you can be smart about your shifts and make sure you've got a weekend here and there. If you can, if your workplace allows you to request, you can request a bank holiday and get extra money. And yeah, that's basically it. So those were the shifts that we're doing. And the shifts here, like, we are full-time workers, so we work 39 hours per week. 39 hours could be, for me, I don't know, for others it's different. For me, sometimes it could be 4 shifts a week, sometimes it could be 3 shifts a week. What they usually do with our duties is, you could do four days this week and 3 days the other week. But the 4 days won't be like a full 13 hours. It could be like 8 hours, and then the other 3 days will be 13 hours. Like, they'll say 12 hours because they don't count the lunch. So 12 hours would be 36, and then you can do the other 7 to 8 hours on another day. It depends. They just make it work, because at the same time they also are considering coverage in the department and all. And then you can do extra shifts where you're working. It depends. Like, I remember November, December, we were like short-staffed because we had a lot of COVID, like, around. So people were like off sick and all, so there were a lot of extra shifts. So you could take like an extra shift there and get, but sometimes you also have to be careful when it comes to tax, how much extra shifts you are taking, and if it works out financially. Because sometimes you take a lot of extra shifts and then you end up kind of losing it all to tax. So you need to be careful about that. And then, yeah, so that was just let me tell you my experience with the supermarkets. Did I even know that when you go into a supermarket and you buy, you know how we're going to pick and pay, or one of the supermarkets and you get a paper bag and you discard it, next time you get another one. This side, like, you can reuse them. They're actually written reusable. I never noticed that till later on when I realized, oh my god, these bags are like €1 each and I keep buying one every time. And then one day I actually asked my sister in the UK and she was like, oh, I forgot to tell you, we don't throw away the bags inside. We keep them and we reuse them. So you don't have to keep buying your bags when you go shopping. You can just carry the ones that you have and they don't really mind if it's from another store or whatever. So that's another way to save. And then, yeah, what else was a bit of a shocker for me? Okay, accent, guys. At first, I really couldn't hear what they were saying. Like, but one thing I should tell you: if you don't understand, don't just agree. Just ask them. May you please say that again, slower, or slowly, like, because you need to know what they've said. Because they're going to say, "We told you to do this," so you need to make sure. And I think after a month or so, you'll get used to the accent. But then, really listen carefully, and if you don't understand, ask them. And another tip that I want to give you guys is make sure that when you like don't know something, like this side, they don't mind if you don't know, but they hate it when you do something and you haven't asked. So one thing I can advise is, if you don't know how to do something, be open enough to say, I don't know, or how do I do this, or what do you want me to do here, or you said I should do this, but I'm not sure how to do it, could you show me? Like, that's what I find. Like, just be open enough. Don't be scared, like, that they're gonna think, oh, you don't know this, you don't know that. You're not gonna know everything. A lot of things are different here, guys. They are very different. And one thing I can say is, when you get here, humble yourself. Like, take a back seat and try to learn first. Yes, you might know your things theoretically, but then they have, every place has a way of doing things. So you need to get into that groove. You need to see how they're doing it. Take a back seat, observe, and then take it from there, incorporate it with your knowledge. But then you can't just get here and say, oh, no, I did it in the RCSI. Because yes, we do the RCSI, but every place has their own way of doing things. If I tell you, I did the RCSI exam, but when I got to the hospital where I was working, they have a policy there. Where I work, sorry, they have a policy that everyone does adaptation for 6 weeks. So it didn't matter that I'd done the RCSI exam. They don't even know what the RCSI exam is and what it's about. They just know that you're here, and what they want to do is make sure that you are like competent enough. So they're going to give you, with us, we did an adaptation for 6 weeks. And at that time also, our salary was like, I think HCA or student nurse rate. And then they'll give you a back pay. Don't worry about that. They'll give you a back pay like once you finish the adaptation. So we did that for 6 weeks. They gave us competencies. So they'll show us this, that, and then they'll see how we're doing it. Once they see that they're happy with the way we're doing it, whether it's drug administration or whatever, then they sign you off on the competency, which I think is also okay, guys, because honestly, even if we say we've done the RCSI, every place, like I'm saying, has their own way of doing things. So imagine if you just come with what you know from the RCSI and you're doing it, and these are people who've worked like where I work. Most of them have been there 15, 20 years. They wouldn't know a thing about the RCSI, or they've got their own way of doing things, if I may put it or repeat it again. So you need to sort of incorporate RCSI with the way they're doing things, because RCSI is more like a guideline or the standard, but then they've also got their own way of doing it. So you need to make it, like, mix it together and make it work. So yeah, that was it. That was it with us. We had to do the adaptation, and then we got our back pay like 3 to 4 months like after we started work. And it was really okay, guys, because I think I would rather be shown how things are done than where people just assume that you know what you're doing because you did the RCSI, because it is very different. Even some of the things, the way we do them in the RCSI and the way they do them is a bit different. Yes, RCSI is the standard, but then each place has their own way of doing things. And then, yeah, besides that, yeah, working hours, like I said, guys, it was hard to adapt, but now my feet don't get painful. I'm so used to it. And what other thing? Night duty would start at 9 p.m. and finish at 8 p.m. in the morning. And then sometimes you have to stay behind if someone else is giving report. We kind of rotate, and then sometimes we give report. So you learn like all those things, how they do their handover here, and how they do. It's very different from the way we do it back home, because I remember back home we just had two people like doing the drug round, depending on how many patients are in the ward or on drugs, and some other guys doing, or student nurses doing the observations, and then someone else, the in charge, doing the doctor's rounds, and you're just doing something else, you know. But here, okay, where I work, I don't know about other hospitals or other counties. Where I am, like and I'm a peds nurse, you take care of your patient from observations, from making sure their bed is done. Like you can delegate if there's an HCA to ask her, okay, can you help me make the bed, or can you make the bed for me in that room? If you're busy, if you want, you can just do it yourself. And then the other thing is, you do like I said, you do your own observations, you give your own drugs for your patients, and you like, the only thing you don't do, the nurse in charge will do the doctor's round and then tell you the orders, so you just carry out the orders. But then, like, all your patient care. And then this side, another thing I need to tell you about, okay, where I am, there's a lot of documentation. You spend more time, like, we have care plans for each and everything that's bothering the patient. You need to report that, okay, when I took over the management, it was like this, like this, like this. Now it's like this, like this. The doctor said this, this, this. And I said, and you have to update every care plan. It's not like a cardex, like what we used to do back home, where you just update one thing and that's it. This side, you have like 4 or 5 of them, like pain or vomiting. If the patient came in with vomiting, whatever the patient has come in with, it's all addressed. It's all got its own separate care plan. So that's it. You need to update each and every one of those. And if you've had any challenges with patient, like, because I'm a children's nurse, sometimes you have challenges maybe with the parent or even with the children. Sometimes you need to document it just to cover yourself. So documentation is of top priority, guys. I don't even want to hide it from you. You need to document as much as you can, like, just to cover yourself, because what happens is, when you knock off and you go, no one is going to know what happened, and anything can be said. So at least when you write it down and they refer back, they know, okay, this was said, and you know, it sort of covers your back. So yeah, that's a little bit about my experience ever since I've been here. And yeah, everything is affordable, food wise, clothes wise, rent wise, rent depends on where you are. And what else can I update you on? If you've got any questions, just ask and then I'll address it. But I just wanted to do like a story time today and just catch up. It's been a minute. So take care, guys. Please like, please share, please subscribe.